All right, I think it's a little bit after 10, so we can get started.
So I just typed a notice, and don't attend to that if we're ready to start, because you can see it and work with it in just a moment. I'm so glad to be back with you all today. And what we will do, moving along from just that point of, okay, what is this stuff called mindfulness anyway, is why is this practice so powerful? What we know is that almost any chronic condition that a human being can experience, from stress to psoriasis to hypertension to depression, you name it, mindfulness can really be helpful because it ends up affecting the whole nervous system. It works within what we call the axis of nervous system and also all of our hormonal system. So what we're going to do today is first just do a brief sitting. And what I'd like to do is just throw the screen up that gives the definition of mindfulness, Carolyn, and that'll be this next slide down. There, no, back one. Yes, yes, on that one, great. And what we'll do is just sit, noticing what's happening in the moment, non-judgmentally, and to be curious and open about it. That means if you notice that the anger you felt yesterday at somebody is arising, just go, oh, there's some anger. You don't try to tamp it down. You don't try to make it sweet and nice. You just notice that it's there and sit with it. Sit with what anger feels like in your body. And if you just get quiet and calming a little bit, that's fine too. So let's just take a few minutes here to sit together. You've already had a very busy morning, and let's just get ready for the rest of this information and the rest of the quiet time we'll have in this half hour. And so getting into a comfortable position and making sure your limbs are well supported. Begin just with those 3 breaths, those 3 sort of cleansing breaths. A deeper inhale, feel it all the way in, and a deeper and longer exhale, exhale, exhale. And again. And again. Just breathing in any way that feels good. Just noticing how you're breathing. Where is your mind right now? Is it on your breath or someplace else? Just notice where it is And if you need to bring it back, just gently and firmly come back to studying the in-breath and the out-breath. Won't be uncommon for you to pay attention to sounds or thoughts that float through or twinges in your body. But anytime you notice that, just come on back to the breath. It's your anchor. Just bringing your mind back to that entire in-breath and that entire out-breath. And when you are ready, just opening your eyes or focusing them back onto the screen and come back to be together with us rather than so internally focused, which we are when we're being mindful, at least in formal practice. So what we're going to do today is talk about really what are the things, and it won't take long, that we can pay attention to in the present moment. And so, Carolyn, if you could go to the next screen. Okay, what is, folks, what is available for attention in the moment? Well, all of our sensory input, of course. Anything we're seeing, hearing, I see I have a typo, touching, feeling, smelling, tasting. That's why when we taste very slowly and mindfully some lovely food, it just engulfs our whole self. So we also have available what's going on with our body, that sense of what we call proprioception, that sense of where our body is in space. And also all of our internal body signals, joint discomfort or abdominal pressure, warmth in a limb, interoception. And then the other thing, and sometimes the biggest thing that is available, is our emotion at that moment. And sometimes we can identify it or simply just know, oh, I have some emotional arousal, and our thoughts. And I will tell you that thoughts are almost constantly with us. And when you catch yourself away from your breath in a formal setting, you almost always are off on some thoughts. That's just how our selves are made. It's the way we're wired. I'm catching myself using the phrase formal practice. Let me stop for just a second and explain that. When we sit quietly and either focus our eyes on one point or close them, this is designed to screen out at least some of the bombardment of sensory input that we can have. So that what is left is we can hear. We're usually not eating when we're doing formal practice, so we're not tasting much. So it simplifies keeping our mind on the present moment. And if our focus at that moment is the breath, it's a little easier to do that. Formal practice is a wonderful practice, and I would encourage you, if you can, to do at least a 20-minute sitting every day. Some of you are going, are you kidding? 20 minutes. So just realize that it's fine to sit for 5 minutes. Just set aside those few moments every day. And then, of course, you're already setting aside those mini moments when the stoplight is red or when you have done a certain procedure with your computer. And that's your mini moment of 3 conscious breaths. So that's formal practice. And really, the only reason we do formal practice, and it's absolutely necessary, but we do it to help us be more mindful in other moments of our day. It just starts to change our neuronal and actually neuroanatomy structure so that we can actually be more mindful on a moment-to-moment basis, at least sometimes throughout our day. Okay, well, what makes being mindful so hard? It sounds like it would be a nice place to be. Well, what we want to talk about is where is our mind usually if it's not actively problem solving, which means long division to me, or, it's obviously a hard work problem that you're very deeply into. So if we're not actively problem solving or being mindful, being consciously aware, we are where? Next slide, Carolyn, is going to be where we normally go. Here we go. Now, what we know, and we're working with the top of this slide right now, what we know from many neuroanatomy labs all over the world that have gotten the same result is that when they study the mind, when we aren't being mindful or actively involved, when your mind's just resting or floating, the things we do are this. A, we are incessantly judging. We're criticizing ourselves or other people. And if you can tune in to that little self voice, you'll start to notice it. If you're at a self-judging point, you'll be saying, I can't do this mindfulness right. I just will stop. I can't do what Harriet's telling me. Or, oh, I didn't get my hair done right today and I'm really going to look frumpy and I don't want to look like that. Or, oh, I just can't really do this project as well as other people. Or we're into judging other people. One of my problems is I will walk down the street and I'll look at somebody and without thinking, the thought will pop into my mind. Why did that man put that shirt on with those pair of pants? Well, what difference is it to me? But where my mind went immediately was to criticize. Okay, what do we do with that? How do we deal with that almost automatic criticality in ourselves if it's just kind of hardwired in? Well, funny thing, we don't try to change it. We just are butting our heads against the wall if we try to change it. What we do is say, oh, there I go, criticizing again. That's my old thing to do. I like to criticize. So when you accept that you did it, you're doing it, it's just part of how you're put together. Doesn't make you a bad human being. It's just there. Something miraculous happens. It just sort of falls away a little bit. Then the other places we go, and these should have been bulleted, and I'll fix this before I leave the slides up here. We mind travel to the past. If we're not actively working on a project or being mindful, and we're going, why did I say that to my neighbor? That was such a dumb thing to say to my neighbor. I'm really sorry I did. We're replaying the past. We're almost ruminating over it, over and over. Or we might mind travel to the future. We're planning about what we need to do at 10:30 as soon as this program is over. We're worrying. And let me tell you, most of what we do when we do this planning, anticipating, and worrying is really negative. We're busy writing a big negative story of how things are or how things are going to be. Oh, if I don't get off of this program in time, I won't have time to finish this report. And I promised my friend I'd go to lunch with her, and it's all going to be messed up because it won't work. We write the story, and we usually write it over and over again with about 3 negative endings. And if we can just stop and notice, oh, what am I doing? I call it catastrophizing. I'm planning negatively. That's just one of the things I do. Then you can kind of let go of it. The other thing I do is plan too much. We all have to plan, but I'll plan the route I need to follow to run 3 errands at lunch. I'll plan that over and over again, thinking, well, that's fine, but what if that road is being worked on by the city crews? I can't go that way, so I'll have to do something else. Well, guys, the truth is, we're all smart enough to figure out how to get from one place to the next without wasting a lot of our energy and emotional naughtiness worrying about what might be happening as we drive the car, because we really don't know. So, we're just out writing this negative fiction about how bad things can be. So, got that with you? It's no surprise that we end up feeling sad, depressed, angry, because where our mind likes to hang out is a kind of negative place. And I think that was useful somewhere in our long history, long ago, but it's not very useful for us now. It just runs our autonomic nervous system up and up, shoots out cortisol that's really, really not good for our body, does all of those psychoneuroimmunology kinds of things that give wear and tear to ourselves. So as soon as we can notice, oh, I'm doing that thing that doesn't really help anything, and just go back to the breath, the sooner will our nervous system quiet a bit and settle a bit. And what happens then is that we get some perspective. We don't get all tied up into this little fiction that we've written about the negative thing that's going to happen 45 minutes from now. So, excuse me. What I would like to ask you to do is that as you do your sitting practice, and hopefully you can have a slightly longer practice at lunchtime or in the morning or the evening, and then you have your 3 to 5 breaths, and you can use 5 if it helps to have 5 breaths to kind of quiet. When you actually are doing that practice, you're going to be bringing your mind back to the breath, since we're using it as an anchor, over and over again. And so for the next week as you work, just begin to notice after a while where your mind usually is hanging out, because most of us have a very favorite hangout. I'm a planner. I have friends who are regretters. It doesn't matter. I also know I'm a criticizer. That's sort of par for the course for all of us. And you find out, do you criticize yourself or others? So you start to find out what your practice is and name it. There is great practice in being able to see, oh, there I go again, criticizing. There I go again, regretting. Just one word for whatever that is that you like to kind of do. Like is not the right word, that you habitually do. when you're not actively engaging your mind. And what that will help you do is more and more frequently notice, oh, there I'm doing it again, criticizing. And for now, all we're going to do is just sort of let go of it. That's a lot to ask you to do in a short period of time. But as you do this over time, you'll have more and more clarity about sort of your own personal style of mind wandering. And that's going to help you be much more able to just get on back on task if you're working on a task, or just get back to being aware of what's going on in the moment instead of going off writing the fiction novel. So for the last few minutes of our practice today, before we get ready to use this information tomorrow and Thursday, about how do we put this into practice as we interact with our family, as we juggle our lifestyle, as we try to be a better and better worker and employee at the office, all at once, hoping that we'll all feel better. So we're going to use all of these kernels as we begin to look at the interactions tomorrow. So it's fine, Carolyn, to leave this up or to just take the screen down if you want. And we're going to sit for the last few moments in quiet, and I'll not be so directive during the quiet this time. So everybody's settling in to a comfortable place, getting eyes focused in one spot and then softening that gaze, or closing your eyes, whatever feels most comfortable. And just bringing your attention to your breath. Just noticing how it is at this moment. And if you'd like, deciding that it would feel good to take those slightly deeper in-breaths and slightly longer out-breaths, which actually help change our brain chemistry to believing that we are calmer. It's a wonderful, wonderful trick. Guess what? Then we get calmer. In and out. Breathing, knowing that I am breathing. knowing in a particular way, non-judgmentally, with curiosity and openness, to really get to know with great intimacy how my mind works. Knowing that my mind is malleable and I can help it with practice to find a resting, calming perspective. And in these final few moments of the sitting, when you are more quiet, more open, you may give yourself a simple encouragement for the day, such as, I'm going to use my mini practice frequently today to see how it affects my day. I'm going to use this little break I've had for the mid-morning to allow me to be more focused and productive, and then more available to those I love after work. Just at the end of any practice, it's fine to tell yourself what you'd like to carry away from that practice, an aspiration for the rest of the day. Just breathing with that aspiration. The in-breath and the out-breath. And now maybe one final deep breath as you stretch a bit. Get ready to move into a slightly different gear for the rest of the morning, and coming back more into our interpersonal sphere. I will look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. I'm going to hand off to Carolyn here in just a minute so she can give any instructions that we need. And Carolyn, you can take the screen down or leave it up, whatever. Folks, I asked you to send your cues, and then we got very busy and I didn't even see. So I'm going to look and I'm going to review them, because most every group has some really wonderful cue that I'd never thought about for when they do their mini breaths. And I'd love to hear yours, and I think it would be helpful to everybody. Thank you all. Carolyn, it's all yours.